Om Mantranam Jivabhuta Tulya Smrita Shakti Rupaya Tatahina Vararohe Nishvalaha Sharada Bravat. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. She whom the saints and seers know and remember as the imperishable Shakti is the secret in all the teachings of the slokas and the sutras. Without her, O fair ones, all the tattvas would be about as useful as clouds with no rain. She is the perfect I consciousness, inherent in all the mantras, in the secret of all the scriptures, whose essence consists of the highest non-duality. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidveshovahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking consciousness. May we not find fault with each other, with the world, or with the teachings. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. So we gather here today on this Sunday after several weeks off because of our visit to the mainland ashrams on the west coast and the teachings given there on the Amrita Bindu Upanishad, the Akshu Upanishad, and also singing the Gyanamritam Stotram from the Avatut with about 16 people up in Portland, which was a wonderful experience, singing non-duality. Some people came up to me and said, such a unique way to learn it is to actually sing it and participate in it. So we have been, therefore, away from Hawaii for several months, and our last Sunday, of course, was the weekend off as we resituated ourselves to come back here and present the Dharma teachings again, as it's our wont to do so, our particular penchant as Vedantists of this age and followers of the Vedanta of Swami Vivekananda in the West and devotees of Sri Ramakrishna and Sri Sharda Devi. And we want to give those teachings a particular accent in this day and age. In a materialistic country that is having a very hard time managing its power, that power, as I just chanted, is Divine Mother in everything. It is Shakti Rupaya. She's the very form of divine power. And so this class series called Mahamaya and Maya is being given with its subtitle Intelligence versus Matter. It's been a theme from time out of mind, not just in Indian darshanas, but in other religions of the world, to separate the wheat from the chaff, or to see the difference between Purusha and Prakriti, or to know the difference between Vedanta and Maya, or God and Mammon. There's so many ways in which it's been said, and our great teacher who came here in 1893, Swami Vivekananda named himself after that Sanskrit word that was key towards separating the wheat from the chaff. That is Swami Vivekananda, that word viveka. That's the first of the sadhana chatushtaya, the four treasures with the 6 jewels. That is, the third treasure has 6 jewels to it. So that's a qualifier. If there is any teaching in Vedanta that's of a practice kind, like sadhana, would probably be the sadhana chatushtaya, because Vedanta pretty much just gives you the truth in no uncertain terms. And if you want to practice it and you feel you have to, if you can't understand it straight from the source, which most people can't in these days and times, then you have to go to yoga or tantra and samkhya, understand the darshanas, the clear ways of seeing that will actually give you the foundation on which to understand Advaita, or non-duality. And I just chanted, her essence is non-duality itself, that is, Divine Mother of the Universe. And so Mahamaya is a way to address her, or Mahashakti. She has other fine names, many too numerous to count, and all full of bliss. Ram Prasad sings in one of his songs, "Oh Mother, where did you get such beautiful names? Kali, Durga, Tara." And goes into bliss just contemplating these beautiful 4 and 5 letter, 5 mantra words, you see, that transport his consciousness whenever he thinks of her. So we often make that point, that she's the power in all words and in every letter. And so the understanding of India goes much deeper than our Western understanding, when we just hear a word and attach a surface meaning to it and walk away thinking that we understand it, instead of looking into the deeper meanings of what words mean to us. Like, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. Jesus was trying to teach John. So if we can at least go that far, then you might say you've found the second goddess. And if you can go to the third goddess, we're talking about Tripura Sundari, is when you get the mantra from Illumined Teacher, then you get 3 goddesses, they say. And the first is the outer one, the Vaikari one. That is, you hear her name and you meditate on it and think about it. And as you do your practice of the mantra, a second goddess appears to you 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, sooner if you can intensify your devotion. And then a third goddess also makes her appearance. So this is the Tripura Sundari, the most beautiful triple aspect of the goddess. And if you attach it to words, because she's the Vak Devi, Saraswati is another name for her. Vak means word. So she's the goddess of all words, and she's the soul of all mantras. And she's the secret in all the teachings of the scriptures, the slokas, the sutras. And to overlook her while you're studying is therefore a very roundabout way of going about gathering wisdom. You see, if you say Divine Mother and I, then you've got the wrong idea. You have to say Divine Mother is in me. She's none other than myself, my highest self. And I and my mother are one, if you want to put it that way in our tradition. Shaktism, but also in Vedanta and Shaivism and Vaishnavism, Mother is in every aspect of India. She's veiled, no doubt. O Sharda, propitious goddess, killer of misery and souls resigned, savior of religion in every age, by saints and sages worshipped, O Mother kind. Give us love and wisdom, thou, O grace incarnate, to thee we bow. One of Sri Ramakrishna's devotees said, Devim prasanam pranatarti hantrim Yogendra pujam jugadharma patrim Tam Sharadam Bhakti Vijnana Datrim Daya Swarupam Paramami Nityam. So, Savior of religion in every age, by saints and sages worship. That means she was worshipped by Swami Vivekananda, by Swami Brahmananda, and by all of the other direct disciples. And now she has 5 million children worshipping her in a very short time. So, Divine Mother makes her appearance, but veiled. So another verse of that same song sings, O Mother Supreme in modest veil, destroy all blemishes and save us from all travail. So, although she's hidden behind the scenes, the seers tend to want to bring her out. And the best way you can do that in a society like this, which values words and values wisdom, or at least lower knowledge, is to teach the Dharma. We were talking about that just before the class began today here at Kedarnath, our other center here on the big island of Hawaii, and talking about how Divine Mother and the Dharma is the solution to all the ills of today. We're going to have to spend some time uncovering that. We're going to have to generate some interest in it, because conventional religion, with its morality and immorality and its virtue and vice, has people on a loop that's playing into the ancestor realm and rebirth, just like it was in Buddha's lifetime 2,500 years ago, 550 years before Jesus. So if you have been given the wisdom, like India has, and has been pronounced in India for so long, and even you see it being transmitted and leaching over into other religious traditions, and you find out Divine Mother is the secret in all the scriptures, then you'll probably beat a hasty path to her door with the mantra inside your own hearts. She's there, seated in the heart, and the mantra, particularly the Mother mantra, is the key to opening the doorway to the heart, and all the other chakras, they call them, are spiritual centers, which Sri Ramakrishna himself visited and mastered. We'll have some teachings on that next week as we go closer to the Kundalini system. I'll draw some teachings from Vedanta, like the Pratibha you see here on the left-hand side, and some teachings from Tantra, and some teachings from yoga. Chit Shakti, she was called by the father of yoga. And we will find that these teachings are her in a manifested form. And hopefully we can open our third eye. If thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. Or I have the Dharma eye inside of me, Buddha said. Or Jnana Chakshu, Krishna said in the Gita. If we can have this higher center awaken in us, which is fully under the auspice of her presence, and then we can have this experience of samadhi or nirvana or illumination. Even lower samadhis come due to seeing her. The sampragyata type of samadhis, the seated samadhis in yoga. The seedless, there's only one of those, and very rare to see a person in that samadhi like we saw Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. But that was one of the 3 or 4 great purposes of his coming, was to show us that samadhi is our true nature. And Shankara was to say, 700 AD, some 1200 years before Sri Ramakrishna, practice having samadhi. He said that in the Vivekachudamani. You should assume the posture of samadhi and practice having that. If the mind thinks it, wills it, it will be. So to entertain it in this day and age, here in the West, in a culture that's thoroughly materialistic, I'm quoting Vivekananda when he came here, is to start on dharmic footing. Maybe bridge the gap between the ancestors and the celestials and the gods and goddesses and the rishis. You get to the level of the rishis, then you're beyond the desire for power. And the gods and goddesses still have desire for power or lordship. But the rishis have no desire for that left. They just want to teach the Dharma and free souls. That's their only purpose for taking on an incarnation anymore. Krishna declares that in several different ways in the Gita, and affirms it at the very last chapter, end of chapter 18, about how teaching this jnana wisdom to souls is the best service you can do, as that'll awaken them from their dream of finitude and reveal to them their infinite nature, beyond the intellectual frame of reference that we're so stuck on here in the West right now. My teacher used to say that, said, there's a difference between peace and power. So those who want power, they'll get the things of the world and grant unto Caesar what is Caesar's. But if you seek spirituality and God, then you'll want peace first and foremost. Who said that? Holy Mother, yes. You need peace first and foremost. That means at least sattva, balance. Rajas and tamas, that is slothfulness and restlessness, won't get you there, because you have to act, Krishna says in the Gita, and if you do actions in tamas and rajas, then you get karmic results. That's why people are suffering karmas. But the sattvic people, you see them suffering less karmas. The only karma the sattvic people suffer is good karma. See? That happens to be a gold chain, Vivekananda has said. See? So you'll want to go beyond sattva. But put very nicely again in the Vivekachudamani, Shankar, he says, beyond sattva, which kind of yellowish in color, is pure sattva, white. Rajas was red and tamas was black or brown. So if you get this pure white color to the guna inside of your mind, then you'll have this pure sattva. Well, what does it look like? You spend your time studying the scriptures, you meditate every day, you do your devotions at the altar, like the puja we had here last night and so forth, and you try and serve all beings, serve God and all beings. I almost made the classic mistake, serve all beings as God. No. All beings aren't God, not until they realize they are. So you must serve God and all beings, Vivekananda said. And that will bring out the divine traits in them. See, if you cater to their ego, there'll be this love for power again, and love for pleasure. Pleasure is why power exists. I will get more pleasure if I have more power. That's the trap of the suras and the asuras, the lordship faction. But in Vedanta we have this profound teaching that the human being can go straight to enlightenment through all the veneer, all the levels of Samkhya, all the levels of the gods and goddesses, can go straight to enlightenment if he or she so chooses to do so. In one lifetime can be free. And the gods and goddesses are fixed in their position for many yugas. And all salutations to them. Sham no mitra, sham varanaha, sham no bhavatvaryama, sham no indro brihaspati, sham no vishnu rudrakramaha. Salutations to all of them who hold these functions within us. They're not alien to us or outside of us. These powers are within us. And that subtlemost of all power is she, whom the seers know and love and recognize as the imperishable Shakti, as I just chanted. So, as that is a sort of my usual preamble to a 3-class series, because we'll be here 3 Sundays in a row now at the same time. Welcome to the live streaming audience, by the way, from parts in Europe I know you're watching, and from California, from India, and parts around the United States. We welcome you all. And we are here in the Hawaii heat And the Dharma will take our minds right above that in classic titiksha form. Titiksha is one of the 6 jewels that I just mentioned earlier in class. It's where you forbear heat and cold. And you can also do the same with pleasure and pain if you lift your mind off of it by focusing on the teachings. If Shatagunam Vidyan Mananam Mananarapi Nidijasam Lakshagunam Anantam Nirvikalpakam. It's good to hear about Brahman, better to take teachings on Brahman, better still to meditate directly on Brahman. Best of all is when your doubt dies about Brahman. So Krishna says similar things in the Gita in terms of intelligence and matter. Na asattaha vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sattaha. He says, the unreal never exists. The real never ceases to be. The truth about both has been realized by the seers. So the seers have realized both what seems to be unreal and what is real. And their unique stance is that there's nothing that's unreal. If you're still practicing discrimination between the real and the unreal, you haven't realized that that thing that you're considering unreal is also a part of reality. So the unreal never exists, the real never ceases to be. So they're seeing air, earth, fire, water, and ether as divine. The 5 lowest tattvas. They're seeing that tasting, touching, hearing, smelling, and feeling are all divine. You see, that those are all divine qualities, because those are the pure senses, and these are the pure elements. But those who are still stuck on imagining a separation, Maya matrimidam dvaita dvaita paramataha, they still see that there's a separation between God and man, between creature and creator, between nature and spirit, then they don't see. They're not yet ready to have that comprehensive vision of Brahman in everything. It's a very rare thing. Sri Ramakrishna said that's the last word in spiritual life in this world, is everything, seeing everything as Brahman. So what are the quirks in our mind that need to be removed in order so we can see that? And who are you going to call to get rid of them? We like to think of Divine Mother as the healing balm, the nepenthe that we will apply like a salve on our mind, you see, in order to rid us of these notions of ignorance that we carry. Pramarina na sandeha kim karishyami vrittiman utpadjante viliante buddhischa yata jale, like bubbles in water. So ignorance is not real. So how can it cause you any real doubt? All your doubt is based on a false premise, in other words. So how do you see the yogis using their minds? Because all minds project. You see, they're all if they come into the body, they're also using a projecting power called sankalpa. It's just that their sankalpas are so much higher and more refined than ours. Very, very sattvic, like Lord Brahma's realm. You see, not Brahman. There's no realm at all there. Lord Brahma's realm. So, how does that kind of mind deal with all of these projections? It just lets them rise spontaneously, and then dissolves them all back like bubbles into water at the end of the day. So, anything that comes to a mind like that, it's rising out of the ocean of consciousness, falling back in. Souls that die by the thousands since we met here today, thousands more being born since we met here today, bubbles rising in the ocean of Divine Mother's pure conscious awareness. Ramprasad says in his song, he says, everybody's babbling about what happens after death. And then he lists a bunch of theories about people who, going to heaven, and how you're space in a jar, and when the jar is broken, you're the same space inside and outwards, or how some people think you'll become a wandering spirit haunting the realms. He says, but this poet of the Mother has his own opinion. He has the truth. He knows that we will be in the end what we were in the beginning. Bubbles. Forming, rising, and dissolving in Divine Mother's ocean of blissful consciousness. So this eternity, this eternal moment in which all of this rises and falls is Om, the word. And just ended the song saying Om, so any beautiful piece you say has to be began and start with that great bijam, Om. We looked at that, was it 6 weeks ago here, when we looked at the two bijams, Om and Ring, in our last class series. So the unreal never is, the real never ceases to be. You might say that is again what we're calling intelligence versus matter. If you want to put it in a more contemporary terms for scientific minds, because if there is any religion in America, it's probably science. So, and science is more in step with Vedanta than fundamentalist religion is right now. So we have to then realize science in its own realm, but also realize that there's this higher state of consciousness whom we would call Divine Mother Reality. And then we'd make the sharp distinction, at least for now, between Mahamaya and Maya. Sri Ramakrishna said as long as you're working on that nut, you see, you're trying to crack that nut in your own mind, then Maya is a cat with its claws and teeth out. You're the mouse, by the way. And Mahamaya is the mother cat with her fangs covered with her lips as she picks you up. You're the mouse either way. But Mahamaya is treating you entirely different than Maya is. So people who don't make this distinction between intelligence and matter, then they have suffering to bear, and it's all their own kuleana. If you know a Hawaiian word, it's their own doing. See, that's the others are akamai. Akamai means you're in the know about Mahamaya, that everything has intelligence in it. Because if you're into matter, you're thinking everything has material particles in it. You found that much. But when you found out that the material particles change at a billionth of a second, you still wanted to grasp onto them. Instead of calling them empty, like the Buddhists did, shunyata, you decided, well, that's okay, I think I'll grasp onto them. And you didn't question how the senses congealed the particles into a solid object. And since you were coming from the outside in, and instead of from the inside out, you didn't question the fact that objects were therefore unreal. Appearances. Dalai Lama teaches that. There's the appearance tree. That's what you see when you look outside, the appearance tree. It's the real tree is what? Swirling particles. But the Buddha nature tree, that's something entirely different. That's the treeness of the tree. That's the essence of the tree. You might say that's the intelligent thought of the tree. And so all these things come out of the mind as intelligent thoughts. And if you relegate them or assign them to Divine Mother Reality, then you're home free. You see, like Sri Ramakrishna, his whole secret was he gave everything away to Mother. So he had deep realizations, but he figured she gave them to him. It weren't his wisdom. He did his sadhana, but he figured she gave me the desire to do sadhana. So anywhere the ego could go with this in a fallacious direction, he truncated that simply by signing everything back to Divine Mother of the Universe. So again, my preamble about this is always meant to warm us up to the topic of Dharma. And I think what I'd like to do would be to start with these two side-by-side charts, and particularly with Pratibha right now. Pratibha, you can see this chart here on your left and my right, with a very beautiful image that I was delighted to find, thanks to courtesy of Ramanand Tiwari of Pilgrim's Bookstore in Kathmandu. Gave me some of these images and said, go ahead and use them for these Dharma charts that he liked very much. And you can see there Vishnu riding on Garuda. Vishnu, of course, the Trinity, represents the sustainer, part of the Trinity. And prana probably is the best representation of Garuda. Garuda would be that riding on the back of the prana. But remember, when we say prana in our tradition, it means, thanks to Swami Vivekananda, we know that it's not just prana, it's psychic prana too. That some prana, 5 of them, directs our body and its functions. Heart beating, lungs pumping, so forth, blood flowing. But if you take those 5 to the next subtler position in your subtle body, then you find out that there's an equivalent to each of those 5 conducting your thoughts, how your thoughts flow or not, how your thoughts aspire or fall. You see how they're just the same as the pranas out here, right? Because sometimes your prana doesn't flow, and sometimes it does. Tamas is not much flow, sattva's flow, you see. So you have to take that into the next level in your subtle body, your second body, and say, well, those 2 pranas out there, we have to connect them with these 2 pranas in here. Sometimes my thoughts are flowing, sometimes they're not. And there's a psychic prana, 5 of them too, just like this 5, that mirror each other, that work on 2 different levels of our being. And this has to be you seeking the kingdoms of heaven and within you, because the kingdoms of heaven are not up, and they're not in your body. You don't want to know what's in your body necessarily, unless you practice the charnel pit meditation. That's about all it's good for in the end. Holy Mother said, what good is this body? It's just a few pounds of ash in the end. Why are people making such a fuss about it? So you'd want to pay attention to this next level of your consciousness, which I'm stating these days is the kingdom of heaven within, which Jesus mentioned to John. He wanted them to meditate in Gethsemane to find the mind, because the mind is the hub of everything that moves. It's the hub of everything animate and inanimate, and she's using this hub. She's animating it, and she's rendering it into a still state, then she makes it move again. So she's the mother of all animate and inanimate objects. And her intelligence would be the closest word in English we'd have, buddhi would be. But problem with buddhi in Sanskrit is that it can be influenced by the ego and the dual mind. So therefore your intelligence can become dim or dumbed down. Say to just focusing on matter. I know a lot about matter, let me tell you. See, I have an electron microscope, I can show you. But how far can you go with that? Wait, I'm looking, but there doesn't seem to be any essence behind it. See, it's all changing, and I've been taught that change is Maya. So I don't want to relegate myself to Maya. I want to realize Mahamaya. She'll show me how to get to the Father through the Mother in our tradition, or to the Mother through the daughter and her sons. So in that way, then we need to focus on these pranas, then make a connection to them. That's what Garuda means here, basically. And Vishnu can ride Garuda from the kings of heaven. In Vedic speak would be the 7 lokas, or the 3 worlds, if you will. There are different assignments, the 7 lotuses, chakras. All of those almost you can put side by side and see the correlations. I have a number of charts that do that. So in this case, Vishnu is using this prana to come out of nowhere. You see here, he's just appearing out of this other ether. There's a word for that called an akasha. You see, so he's piercing through into the physical akasha to help this soul, who's being all of a sudden has found himself in a very dire position, and is calling for help. You see, and making a devout offering to the Lord. Despite suffering. It says there that soul, elephant soul there who's caught, is making a devout offering to the Lord despite suffering. May we make a sincere and humble offering of everything of the small self into the great self. See? You know that chant, I think. one of the 7 peace chants. So this comes back to what's in a word. See, that very strange saying people have come up with. Well, pratibha, Sri Ramakrishna liked that word. He said it was, he used the story of flint-like intelligence. Pratibha is flint-like intelligence, like mother intelligence. And he gave the story that if you keep a match in water for a time, and it won't strike. But if you keep a flint in water for even 1,000 years, you can take it out, and while it's still wet, it'll strike. So there is an intelligence that is that will not ignite. You see, that has become wet with the water of worldliness, of Maya. Then there's this subtle intelligence, pratibha, that no matter how much you subject it to the waters of Maya and the worlds, will always strike sparks for you. So your mission, should you accept it, is to get a hold of this pratibha, this flint-like intelligence, and use it in all matters. The quote here: everything, the world, manifestations therein, enjoying, suffering, departing, the power of conjuring realms of name and form, can and should be directly designated and attributed to one's own intelligence. Other factors such as fate, destiny, karma, and even grace also reside within and spring from that self-same power. So this is how much efficacy and importance they're giving to your own intelligence. So if we wanted to somehow explain that through the scriptures, we'd go, Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Buddhi Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Ya Devi Namo Namaha. Om Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Vritti Rupena Samstita Namastasyai Namastasyai. You exist as the power of vibration in everything. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Smriti Rupena Samstita. O Mother, you exist as the power of memory in the mind. Ya Devi Buddhi Rupena Samstita. You exist as the power of intelligence in all beings. So out of those great mother scriptures, can't be said any more clearly or more directly, can it? And it grabs the heart and the mind both when you entertain it, and you open to it. So that self-same power, that buddhi, is there inside of your very self. So that's what you need to grab a hold of, strike sparks with it, and make you live a dharmic life, cause you to live a divine life, or even transcend life, if you be a lover of formlessness, and this be the last world you ever look at, the last form you ever look at, like Lord Buddha. I'm gone and gone forever. So what's in a word? Pratibha, self-aware intelligence. It's not just intellectual frame of reference intelligence that fixated on matter. It's fixated on, not on mammon, but on the divine reality. And she's the conduit. She's leading straight to it. And why is it necessary? Because you're lost in what's called pratibhasika sata. That's another very wonderful word. That's 7 syllables of Sanskrit for you. It shows you that, well, maybe Vedanta is a little bit complex. Maybe truth isn't all as simple as it's made out to be. That is, the truth is simple, but the ways in which it has to be communicated to you may be simply profound. So if you get a word like pratibhasika you know some seer has put together some train of ideas in his or her mind and has come up with these teachings. This translates probably best as unreal or apparent dream reality. So that's swapna, the mind. So you have Sushupti, which is deep sleep, and you have Swapna, which is dreaming, and you have Jagrat, which is waking. And this is how Gaudapada would teach you. The meaning of Om, A-U-M, creation, preservation, destruction, projection, sustenance, withdrawal, Father, Mother, Guru. And there's so many triple assignments for the word Om, but probably one of the best and most profound is waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. You could also say in-breath, held breath, and out-breath is also that very same Om. We connect it more to the Garuda, to prana. So if your understanding of mantras, words, and word bijams like Om is that vast, you've assigned that much import to it, then you're going to come up with words like that to show how societies, countries, the three worlds have fallen under the influence of Maya. And very few are awakening from it, cycle to cycle. Kapila was one of the first teachers of that. He called it samsara pragbara. Pragbara means kind of dam. You see, the soul's trying to go somewhere and they get dammed up to these lower chakras, the three lower chakras. It's a dam. There's actually a grunti. See, another Sanskrit word is kind of like a blockage. Subtle blockage there in the mind. What's keeping souls from passing through to the heart. Basically, if you want to explain it, because when the heart is where you're free, where you love. So the three lower centers are eating, drinking, and sex life in constant rounds, to quote Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. So unreal and apparent dream reality is restricted to these three lower realms, and you haven't woken up yet to the reality of Divine Mother. I'll have some other charts to show you about that later. So this is a four-word teaching: Pratibha, Pratibhasika Sata, Pratibha Bandhika, and Pratibandhika Bhava. So you see, Vishnu has come on the scene, and seeing his devotee suffer, because the devotee has offered him this lotus, you see, of prayer. Save me, Pahimam, save me, O Mother. And so he comes with his chakra, his famous chakra, you see, which he casts, and is cutting off the head of the crocodile. That's called Pratibandhaka Bhava, power of intelligence which removes obstructions. So you call upon this Mother Intelligence, which is this flint-like presence in you, to remove these obstacles. This is cutting out your own spiritual path. This is your own willpower. This is calling on your own powers inside of you, and without letting the ego become misled by it. O Mother, come and strike away this obstruction. Om Ganeshaya Namaha. May he remove obstacles in our spiritual life, because he's her son, you see. Pratibandhika is the power of obstruction itself, and that represented by the crocodile there. This soul has been lost in this waters, this ocean of dream reality, and hasn't been on vigil. Swami Paramananda of the Ramakrishna order used to use that, wrote a book called Vigil. He says, you have to be on vigil all the time here. Might be different in other worlds, but here you must be on vigil all the time and be very careful about everything. So, power of instruction will come to all beings who are taking on a body-mind mechanism. Really a simple teaching, fourfold, but those four words with the same Sanskrit roots are important to look at. Let's look into the Dhammapada, how Lord Buddha put it, and we'll move on. Gods and goddesses, father and mother, or any other kith or kin cannot confer greater benefit than that of a well-directed intelligence. Well, he should know because he named himself after it. Buddha, Buddhi, if you get my meaning here. This intelligence is incomprehensible and exceedingly subtle. It wanders wherever and whenever it desires. Therefore, the wise ones carefully watch over this intelligence, which resides in the cavern of the heart, and utilize it to free themselves and others from the shackles of Mara. Mara might as well be Maya. Or the devil in Christianity, if you want to say. So with this beautiful image and these 4 words, we can put together this idea of, I was saying, Kapila called it samsara pragbara, this dam of souls that are constantly coming up against this granti, this knot, and returning again and again. Shouldn't be so hard to accept when you see the suffering of humanity, especially in a day and age like this. And you're always asking, what's the solution for it? And your technical knowledge is not giving you that solution. It's only remedial to a certain extent. Like Vivekananda says, lower knowledge will satisfy only for a time, but higher knowledge satisfies forever. So Mother gives that higher knowledge. That's this higher intelligence that we're referring her to as Pratibha. So let's move on then in this first half to this chart, because you can draw straight across from the teachings of Tantra to Vedanta when you look at something like Prakasha Shakti. Prakasha Shakti is the revelatory power, and it's funny, in Vedanta it doesn't get mentioned. What gets mentioned is the obscuring power and the distorting power. You probably are thinking people aren't ready to man and handle, the revelatory power yet. Sort of like, giving an inferior magician a powerful wand or something. See, it's just going to make things worse. So maybe it doesn't get mentioned for that reason, but whatever the case, you hear all the time about the obscuring power and the distorting power. And if you're learning about it from the Vedantic fold, from that darshan of Vedanta, Vedavyas being its father, as it were, at the end of an age, then what you're looking at is the need to understand that transformation is not actual. So anything taking place or taking change is not taking change at all. There is no change in Brahman. So if you know the unreal never is and the real never ceases to be, then you're on the side of the real, then anything that's changing you cast out. The real never changes. Life is a many-colored dome which stains the pure white light of reality. Apparently so. The mind stains everything with its thinking process. Stains it either brown, red, yellow. Well, but if you were able to come to the highest sattvic position, which would be Prakasha Shakti, the revelatory power, then there would be no stain on anything at all. You'd be seeing everything as it truly is, which is the penchant of the yogi. It's what the yogi wants to do. The yogi will take two attacks at that obstacle. One, get a hold of the prana. That's for the inferior. The other, get a hold of the mind. And most yogis, if they come in with control of the mind, they never have the problem in the first place. There may be other more subtler problems, like trying to awaken collective humanity, like Jesus and Buddha were trying to do. But that problem is not in them anymore. So they know that transformation is unreal, that birth and death are unreal, and that creation and destruction are unreal. Nothing's ever born, nothing ever dies. Krishna gives that teaching in the second chapter to Arjuna in the Gita, right off the bat. So he is armed in the Samkhya Yoga chapter with that non-dual wisdom. Later on he'll repeat, the unreal never is, the real never ceases to be. First he puts it in terms of birth and death, because this is what Arjuna is facing on the battlefield. He's not even afraid of his own death. He's afraid of killing his relatives and friends on the other side of the battlefield. It's a very wonderful study, very revealing. So you can see here, if you talk about veiling power, it's Avarana Shakti. Let's see. I got the right chart up here. Avarana Shakti. And if you talk about distorting power, it's Vikshepa Shakti. Remember, as I just mentioned, neither of these are true. So you're going to have to see through them. First, to see through them, you're going to have to recognize that this is the sleight of hand of Maya that's causing this to appear differently to you. That is, for instance, like Gaudapada said, I can go like this, and then I look at Kanya or Tadrupa or others, you see, and I see two of you. But it's not really actual. See, there is really only one of you. So Maya, as far as its distorting and veiling power, is rather like that. It's not actual. It's making it appear different than it really is. That would be the Advaitic teaching you should get, that will go hand in hand with the practices you do to reveal your mind's penchant, to see distortion, or to see obscuration, or to not see, as it were. You can see here the power of obscuration. The bullet points are, it veils the mind on individual, collective, and cosmic levels. These are the three powers of Shakti, basically. Sri Ramakrishna talks about them in the Gospel. Avarana, Vikshepa, and Prakasha. Like I said, Prakasha doesn't get a lot said about it. What can you say about it? Because the person who is availed of it is not seeing, is not having problems. So he's not going to say, oh, really glad I have that Prakasha Shakti now, I can tell you, because it's just clarity, that's all. You don't even know you have it. But you know when you have distorted vision, and you know when you have obscured vision. You just need to know that this Pratibha, or this Divine Mother, has in her the ability to grant you this clarifying power. Now that's important in Vedanta, that's important in Yoga, and that's important in Buddhism. The same word in all three, Khyati. If you have Khyati, father of yoga, taking that darshana, that's one of the steps that leads to Kaivalya. Because that samsara pragbara we were just talking about, that dam where people are flowing against it and going back to earth, being reborn again, there's another stream that's flowing simultaneously called Kaivalya pragbara. Kaivalya means liberation, or you could say penultimate liberation. It really means isolation from nature. And so nature is the form-producing machine at all levels, at the physical level, at the collective level, and at the cosmic level. So you can see the power here. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, Avidya Shakti is more powerful than Vidya Shakti. The power of ignorance is more powerful than the power of knowledge. And you won't have to look far in this world to have to accept that truth. As soon as you avail yourself of higher wisdom, then of course the other two show themselves up as non-existent. One day I awoke, and my ignorance was gone, utterly gone. Ram Prasad sings in one of his songs. So that's why I'm saying a little bit here, this first bullet point, it veils the mind on individual, collective, and cosmic levels. So there would even be a set of blinders put over the eyes of the gods and goddesses. That's called subtle power. We'll look at that when we look at the Shaivite tradition next week. There are 36 tattvas, not 24, in Shaivism. And that's a very beautiful study. Now, it's related to the guna of tamas. So we know that to have things obscured is really a kind of darkness. It works in conjunction with Vikshepa Shakti. Let's find out what Vikshepa Shakti means. The power of distortion distorts the mind on all three levels again, is related to the guna of rajas, and works in conjunction with avarana and prakasha. So vikshepa is rajas, and they say rajas can spill over into tamas, and rajas can also lead you into sattva. So the teachers of Vedanta and Tantra both would want you to make this correlation between these three powers of Shakti and the three gunas. Because it's at a very, very deep level, deep sleep level, penultimate samadhi level, where these gunas are threatening to come in and disturb your equilibrium. If you let them through the door, then what happens are ages and ages of lifetimes and sufferings and incarnated beings. So if you were able to trigunatita, if you were able to transcend the three gunas, then you wouldn't become subject to their influence. In other words, to say that Prakasha Shakti is already in them, perfection is already in the original, so they don't need to refer to Prakasha Shakti. It's their natural state of being. Just like living in this atmosphere of the Jnana Chakshu. It's just clear all the time. All I see is clarity. They have the highest view, as Buddha said, on the mountaintop. He looks down in the valleys and steaming marshes and things that people are suffering so much. He says, I just have this highest view up in the mountain, and I have compassion for all of those who don't know about this highest view. So, like I think he said in the Dhammapada, like swans always leaving the lower mountain lake and going to the next higher mountain lake and to the next higher mountain lake. They're never satisfied with these lower views. They're always seeking and searching to get the more refined, more true, more perfect and clearest vision possible. Like Shankar is saying, polishing my mind every day because it's a mirror and it collects dust. So I need to keep it on vigil again. I need to be at this every day. Can't let down at all, because obscuring power and the distorting power are right on the scene, looking for that crack in your thinking process. And it could happen in waking and it could happen in dream. A lot of people wake up from perfectly good days and wonder what happened to them, why they're having a bad day, why their mood changed. We don't call them moods anymore. That's sentimentalism and emotionalism. We call them modes. They're modes of nature, and they cycle automatically and when you least expect them to. And this is a modus operandi of Maya. And it happens, and it's nobody's fault, and there's no one to blame. So it's not like a mood where, you let your face grow long, as they say. You got depressed, and it was your own fault, and you suffered because of it. This is a thing that's happening to everyone, including the illumined souls, when they get the dark night of the soul. Have this come upon them, but it's at a cosmic level. They're getting it. So some words about that. Prakasha Shakti, if we were to define her, as far as words can tell, is the power of revelation. It clarifies the mind by revealing the actual nature of things. So, for instance, there's the tree, and science told me there's the real tree is the swirling particles tree, but then there's the Buddha nature tree, which is deep, deep, deep inside of me in my deep sleep state as a seed. The word tree, in many different languages, by the way, is the thought of the tree that will lead you to the essence tree, like the goldness of gold, the silverness of silver, the manliness of man, the womanliness of woman, is how Vivekananda put it. He says, I don't have a lot of money, but I can tell you about the goldness of gold, he said, the silverness of silver. I was thinking, teaching the truth, amongst people who have not been availed of the Dharma as they grew up with their parents and society. It's sort of like being amongst American Indians and being a gold digger. See? So you've got this gold fever, see, and you've assigned this value to a mineral, and the Indians are looking at you like you're crazy. Well, that's the old definition of what the gold fever did to us. to the Westerner. But Sri Ramakrishna would take a teaching like that and say, yes, I feel like that too. I've got this gold. I want to tell them the importance of it, but they won't have anything to do with it. You know. So if you have the truth and nobody's listening to you, then you feel alien. You see, a foreigner in a foreign land, they say. So to have Prakasha Shakti reveal the nature of all things to you is the gateway to peace of mind. You need peace of mind first and foremost, she said. So who's going to grant you that Prakasha Shakti? Where is it? It's the intelligence inside of you called Pratibha. That's her. You're thinking she's a 4-armed goddess or a 10-armed goddess and she has to come to you in a dream and bestow some grace on you. You're not connecting yourself to her. You are her in another one of her forms. O meditator, become the goddess. Yeah. So there's a beautiful song in India that says that. There's another song that says, "Oh mother, I know what I see in my meditations, but I wonder what you see in yours." So these are thoughts that are beginning to lead the soul to awareness of its mother and oneness with its mother. And it all impinges or revolves around these important words: buddhi, pratibha, prakasha. These are all indicative of her nature, essence of intelligence. Which is why in Vedanta you're not seeing a lot of people dance and sing. See, I mean, I go to the Vedanta centers, they're not a bunch of mad bhaktas there. Why? See, they're seeking her inside in the subtlest form as intelligence. They want their ignorance removed entirely. Then I can dance, later. And it won't be pretentious. It won't be fake. It won't be put on. It won't be to look good to others. See? I won't put on real fine clothes after I've done my asanas in the morning, ride a bike over to the nearest kirtan and dance and sing in a pretentious way, see? And then come home the same old person. You think this is harsh criticism. Sri Ramakrishna looked at his own people there in India dancing in kirtan, getting high. He said, oh yes, the kundalini comes up, he says. But then they go home the next day and the kundalini falls right back down to the lower centers and they start doing all sorts of heinous acts. See? So if a great master has said that, then it's probably worth repeating in a culture like this. Not that most of us are having any problem dancing and singing. We don't even know what that's about. Except social dancing, you see. Or, come on baby, shake the booty. We don't want to shake the booty, we want to realize the booty. See? Pun intended. So that's going to take some stillness. It always has taken an inward turn, not the outward turn. You can worry about the outward later. Vivekananda said, let's get busy here and get the essence of Mother Wisdom. We can compare notes later. But we must be up and doing, he said. Up and doing about this, getting this clarifying knowledge. So I'm going a little bit longer about that. The second bullet point is that Prakasha Shakti is related to the guna of sattva and leads beyond it as well. So that's where yellow becomes white, as I was saying at the top of the class. And sattva is a healthy lifestyle and enjoying some pleasure uninterrupted for a time until rajas and tamas insinuate themselves on it again out of nowhere when you wake up one morning. What happened to my balance? So practice of yoga wants you to keep that balance in all three states of your awareness, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And if you didn't wake up with it again, you have to go back and find out where you lost it. See? What happened to me? It's really very much akin to asking, who am I? It's really very close to that. What happened to me? Me, I. You see, what happened to me? I mean, I was perfect. Then all of a sudden I wasn't perfect anymore. How can that be? The scriptures tell me that's not true. My teachers told me that's not true. what kind of trick is my mind playing on me, and what's responsible? See, I'm letting avarana and vikshepa into my life. I'm believing in things that shouldn't be believed in. I think that ignorance is real and doubt is real, but neither of them are. Only Brahman is real. So you have to go back philosophically and check these out in your mind and take them to task. Being on vigil all the time so you get that key called Prakasha Shakti, or higher sattva. If you are in understanding of what I'm saying now and you're still experiencing shift of gunas, like my students and people looking on who are following these classes of the Dharma, then there's a method by which you can just simply call sattva back to you. If you feel out of sorts one day and disinterested, even bordering on depression or restless and you don't know why, then simply invite sattva back into your mind. By simply having that thought, watch what will happen 5 minutes later or an hour later. Hey, it's back, you see. So this is a method that I've used myself when I was in my 20s, and saw that it worked, and then pretty soon you just prefer to be there. That's all. It's not some great accomplishment necessarily, because you lost your balance. Shame on you, right? So is it a great accomplishment to get it back? I don't think so. I think it was a shame that you lost it in the first place. So you should probably get it back and just prefer it. See? Just prefer it. Natural breathing, natural sitting. Forget these postures. This posture is what you need. There's a whole bunch of manasanas, mental postures, that you can take on that will heal your emotional states, which, by the way, is one of the biggest problems in the West, emotional problems. People are getting all bent out of shape for things they don't need to get upset about. And you don't see the seers or the rest of us who are living in sattva, the Dharma teachers, the yogis and so forth. You don't see us getting bent out of shape by anything. So what's the secret there? Why are they living all the time in the same state? We prefer it. There's a story about Swami Brahmananda, Rakal, Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual son, they called him, one of the 16 direct disciples. Somebody asked him once, what if you found out that God wasn't real? Probably a loaded question there, because in a sense God isn't real, but all the Vedanta, this Dharma and everything wasn't true. What would you do? And he said, well, I don't think I'd live any different than I am now. We prefer it. See? This is this. You see, you know this Shiva Mudra? You know, is stable. And the mind, you know, is stable on Shakti, you see, on the Yoni and the Lingam. This is the chief mudra of the Shaivites. So you want that for yourself, and in order to gain that and earn it, qualify yourself for it, you're going to have to, yes, practice it. Don't let anyone in the pseudo-Advaita realms tell you that you're already perfect. You're not perfect till you realize you're perfect. This is how I was taught by the Swamis of the Ramakrishna order. Oh, then we're perfect. I get it. No, wait a minute. You're not perfect till you realize you're perfect. Have you realized you're perfect? There's a barometer for that. Are you in peace all the time? Do you fall out of yoga still? Do the gunas still pass and you still react to them? So much so that you become emotional and bent out of shape? Daily? Hourly? No, we prefer it. It's the least amount of wasted energy. It's the best economy. It's living in the Dharma, at very least living in the Dharma. And that Dharma can lead you then to divine life. Dharmic life, divine life, and no life. You know what I mean by no life, Shisharda said. Birth and death are very painful. May you never have to experience them again. Sounds to me like she doesn't want you back in the body. Not under the influence of these critters. If you came back with Pratibha or Prakasha Shakti or illumined buddhi. You see, that would be an entirely different thing, because you're actually not in the body then. The seers say, I'm not the body. It's not just a statement they make. They actually feel that they're the spirit, or know that they are. And so the body is just an extension of that. Or maybe the body is Brahman for them. That everything is real. Everything is important. Right? You said that to me just the other day. All right. So, final bullet point, exposes truth in association with adhyaropa and apavada. Adhyaropa, the ability of the spiritual aspirant to adroitly detect unreal, false superimposition of name and form over Brahman. So if Prakasha Shakti and Avarana Shakti are in effect in your mind, you have to have adhyaropa. That's it comes off of sadhana chatushtaya. Discrimination between the real and the unreal, detachment from the unreal. Those are the first two pillars of Vedanta as a practice. Probably the only practice you could find in Vedanta, because Vedanta, again, isn't known for practice. It's just known for being, for pure existence. So, if you find yourself in that position, you're going to have to detect false superimposition of name and form over Brahman. Where's that coming from? Should we blame it on the gunas? Should we blame it on the lower forms of Mayak Shakti? Or should we find a hole in our consciousness that these are getting in through, and plug that up? So this is called sadhana, and until you're illumined, you have to be doing this. Lord Vashishta says, until you can understand and be with the seers on the level of truth, then you must follow the way of practice, sadhana. So dharma and sadhana go together. Dharma will give you the skinny on the whole thing. Sadhana will help you remove it. So this is revelatory practice. Revelatory power in practice. See? She's there helping you. If you'll take her, they say Maya covers your eyes with one hand and leads you on with the other, right? So the seers say, okay, well, I've had enough of this. I want to see where I'm going. What do you see in your meditations, O Mother? Yeah. So they remove the power of obscuration, the power of distortion, and usually you'll find that they're doing it, at least in the Vedantic way, with adhyaropa. They detect false superimposition at its root and remove it. It would be like a scientist finding the secret of why a mirage exists in the desert, but not a grain of sand gets wet. If you want an analogy with science and biology and so forth. So, Sri Ramakrishna would say, draw back and look at Maya from a distance, never study it up close. So if you can get that witness consciousness, then revelatory power is all of a sudden yours. You see, it's in you. But isn't it funny that Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti are covering what? Prakasha Shakti. And you never would have thunk, you see. Oh, you're praying for Prakasha Shakti, Prasha Shakti, all under the mantle of Avarana and Vikshepa in your mind. So you're going to have to find false superimposition. Doubt is, ignorance is unreal, so it can't cause me any real doubt. Remove that. Oh, there she is. The revelatory power has come forward. How did I do that? You see, do it a few times and then you'll get masterful at it. And it's really much the same as holding sattva all the time. Sattva will be that springboard, see, into which you will find yourself in an enlightened state. Decades will pass, but gee, it's still there. See? It persists. I used to lose it and gain it. We used to say that about going to our teacher, light the torch, come away. It went out, go back. A few months later, light it again. Finally you can go away and, keep it, keep the winds from blowing it out, protect it. Pretty soon it blazes. And that's no change. That's a parinama. No transformation anymore for you. You don't believe in it, so it quit bothering you. Everything you saw that changed was just an appearance, false superimposition. And you finally understood that, and it went away and didn't bother you anymore. Well, Apavada is next, the ability of spiritual aspirants via rejection of the unreal to do away with false superimposition of name and form over Brahman. So you're going to have to take these first two treasures, Viveka and Vairagya, and practice Adhyaropa and Apavada to make the whole Vedantic practice, I'd call it Advaitic practice. I coined that phrase in India once, and some of the Swamis says, we really like that one, Advaita Vedanta Sadhana, because that's almost like contradiction. Advaita Vedanta doesn't need sadhana. So if you say Advaita Vedanta Sadhana, then there must be some deeper clarification that's going on in a person who understands the truth, but who hasn't fully arrived there yet, or is maybe falling in and out of it. You can fall in and out of, these lower chakras, and so forth. But you can also fall out of this higher chakra to this chakra. What you want to do is run a boat race. Sri Ramakrishna said, when I opened up the three highest chakras, then I ran a boat race between them. So he, out there in the Hooghly River, outside of Bellarmine, he probably saw boat races going on. So I said, oh yeah, that's just like what I do inside the three centers, you see. So sometimes he was here, sometimes he was here, sometimes he was here. It's by way of saying, it's not the body we're pointing at, it's these spiritual vortexes within the precious human frame. Within means deep within. More like in this level, mind, or more like in buddhi, or more like in cosmic buddhi. Trinity beyond. That's a very high level of abidance. Atman alone abides. So you're getting very close to the source when you're having those kinds of experience. In fact, Sri Ramakrishna, here's one of his experiences. Once I had entered the woods and was sitting in meditation in the pine grove when suddenly I had a vision in the form of something like a chamber door in the ground. I couldn't see inside the chamber, so I tried to bore a hole in the door with a nail knife, but as I dug, the earth kept falling into the hole and filling it. Then suddenly I made a very big opening. Okay, well, he's using an analogy. He was in meditation when all this was happening, so all of a sudden he became aware. Let's call that Prakasha Shakti. She visited him in a big way. You see, so now he's trying to remove Avarana or Vikshepa Shakti. Avarana Shakti with this nail knife of practice, but Vikshepa Shakti keeps filling in the hole. See. So Prakasha Shakti eventually wins out, and he makes this great opening into the light. You see, beautiful, metaphorically speaking, but actually a real experience he had, mentioned in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. I mean, you can sing about it too, which they do. No Veja Veda Kamidam Na chahe tu tarkyam Vachamago charamidam Na mano na buddhi Evam katam hi bhavata Kathayami tatvam Gyanamritam samarasam Gaganopamoham Gyanamritam samarasam Gaganopamoham. I can hear you because of those 16 devotees that gathered with me in Portland a couple weeks ago. They sang this multiple times every day with me, that last line, Gyanamritam. And I'm sure that they're smiling right now as they look at the computer screen, singing that along with me. See, what's it mean? let's give you the straight English of it. The Avatut sings this. I'm calling it the Gyanamritam Samarasam Stotram. Also the Gyanamritam Chalisa, because it's 40 verses you find at the end of the 3rd chapter of the Avatut, Avadhuta Gita. It's one of these profound books that is Advaitic in nature. So that verse says, you ask me about Brahman? How can I speak of what transcends speech and its words, mind and its conceptions, intellect and its reasoning power, and the knower and its knowledge? I only know that I am pure existence, wisdom, and bliss, as boundless as the sky, infinite like space. So he has 40 such verses where he ends with that same refrain. I am pure existence, wisdom, and bliss, as boundless as the sky, infinite like space. The finest 2 elements, air and ether, he's using metaphorically to describe the openness and the all-pervasiveness. The openness, air, all-pervasiveness, ether. We really ought to look or interest our scientists into 4 other ethers they're not taking into account. They're only taking in the Bhutakasha, what we would call the physical ether, and therefore evolution seems real, and we've been here some 5 million years of 4 billion of them, like intelligence somehow had a beginning. No, it was there watching the whole thing from 4 other ethers. An ether of prana, where your ancestors are, an ether of mind, where the celestials are, and the gods and goddesses are, an ether of intellect, where the rishis are, and an ether of spirituality, where the Trinity and the Vairagas are. All the kingdoms of heaven within. My Father's mansion has many chambers, looking out onto this one external akasha, or you say akasha. You could also say bardo, space, ether. So we ought to interest others, including ourselves, as looking into 4 other ethers. When you actually sit down to meditate, that's what you're doing. I don't think people realize this. If they sit and they all of a sudden think of their dead ancestor, then they passed through the kingdom of heaven that was assigned for the ancestors. The ancestors by the billions are keeping that right next to the physical ether. You go into dream, you enter it. If you go to deep sleep, you go through it so fast that you don't know it. The mind is much, much faster than the speed of light, the speed of thought. Manojavitvam, the Tantricists call it. See, it's swifter than the swiftest. Outstrips everything that runs, except her, because it's all running inside of the play of her mind. You see, it's that beautiful sloka here. I'd read it. So, Gyanamritam Samarasam. Samarasam. Rasa means this exquisite enjoyment. The enjoyment of what? Sama. Samata. See? The peace that passes all understanding. You enjoy that. Like you say, we prefer it. See? We look outside or into the restless mind. Either way we look, we don't prefer that. We prefer this evenness of mind. Samata. Samatva. Yoga Vasishtha talked about it. Buddha talked about it. And Vedanta talks about it. It's the first of the 6 treasures. Sama. And then Dhamma. You get inner peace, then you get self-control. So I'm just saying. To end, because we have 5 minutes more and we take our break, Maya is an insentient force that, though invested with inherent powers of obscuration and distortion, nevertheless is present to drive beings towards remembrance and enlightenment. The Tantric adepts state that she covers our eyes with one hand, but leads us towards freedom with the other. This directive power is Prakasha Shakti. Prakasha is the revelatory light. Prakashaka is its revealer. Prakashya is the thing revealed. So in the same way, you can take Pratibha into 3 or 4 of its common connected words. You can take Prakasha in the same way to indicate the one looking on, the thing being looked at, and the power with which it gets looked at. We're declaring here that the power with which everything is seen and the enlightened is her. She's that swift, she's that immediate, she's in every word, and the seers know and remember her as being the imperishable Shakti. Final quote at the bottom here, and we will take our break. Well, it's about one of the abhava padarthas. You know, those are like man in a stump. I experienced this just half an hour away, walking at midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning, take my blood sugar down as they go out these long walks. And got like a half moon night out there. You're walking along this road and you look over and there's a man in a field. You see, there's nothing up there where I walk. No houses, dwellings, people. So it's kind of startling, you see. So there's this man, closer and closer. Who is that? You know, it's a stump in a half moonlight, you see. So I can speak from experience about the abhava padarthas. Well, this one is famous, of course, snake and a rope. You hear this all the time in Vedantic teachings. Enjoying a snake one evening, espying a snake one evening, in the summer darkness, the man reacted in abject fear. Upon closer inspection, he saw that the illusory snake was really a rope. Similarly, a man sees the universe where only Brahman exists. The power of obscuration, Avarana Shakti, causes his mind to cover reality with the world. The power of distortion, Vikshepa Shakti, makes him perceive the world as distinct from Brahman. But the penetrating power of Prakasha reveals all such superimpositions and projections to be unreal. So when we say only Brahman is real and the world is unreal, we mean that in the sense that if you remove the reflection, then the original only remains. I'll sing that to you after the break, and we'll look at 2 other charts that I've brought along about Mahamaya herself. Thank you for your kind attentions, and we will return in 15 minutes. we welcome you back to our midst. That is, into the realm of Mother Intelligence, which we attempt to inculcate into our class, into our lives, and into everything we do with this special knowledge of Divine Mother Shakti, which is the subject of this 3-class series over the next 3 Sundays, including today. So the second half is going to be more about who is Mahamaya, because there's always the what of everything, and then there's of course the effect of everything. But if you want to look at the cause, or even the causeless cause, sometimes they call her, beyond all causes, at the source of everything, then you would look towards these great names, as we were saying, these divine names like Mahamaya and Mahashakti, Mahaprakriti even, and so forth. She's everything is under her auspice, and she's, as Sri Ramakrishna said, she's the power without which I can't even lift my finger. So all the great seers are acknowledging her, and as well they're trying to fathom her. There's a beautiful song in India that says, "O mind, meditate deeply on the Divine Mother of the Universe and try your best to know her. You'll never succeed, but in the attempt your mind will get purified." It's beautiful teaching. So you should never think that you can plumb the depths of the depthless Mahashakti, but you should try with the best of your powers, because in that process your mind will get purified. You'll get chit shuddhi. If you concentrate on her, it just has that effect. So years you could do that, lifetimes you could do that, like trying to empty the ocean with a feather, that story that comes to us in the Vedic tradition. If you just show her that you're willing to do that, then in days means maybe even a lifetime or two, you'll have that realization of her dwelling as your own essence. As we say, Swarupa Rupena Samstita. She's the essence in everything. She's the very form of intelligence. That's kind of the tact we're taking here in the subtitle of this class called Intelligence versus Matter. Versus because we're having a problem in this day and age called the Kali Yuga with matter. And number one problem is we don't know that it comes from our mind, not from God. And nature can't operate on itself. That would be unmanifested Prakriti if you're talking about that, like deep sleep, the seeds to everything. But there has to be an intelligent witness, proactive participant, and in that case, if you cite her as such and you bring her into your thinking process, then you'll become aware of this special dynamic power. They often call her the dynamic power of Brahman. And Sri Ramakrishna used to talk about her in terms of fire and its heat, and water and its wetness, those kinds of beautiful conundrum-type sayings. You can't separate whiteness from snow. So, in that way, all of nature, Prakriti, is pointing to her and her union with Brahman, or with Shiva, if you want to take the Shaivite perspective. So, who is she? Much again like asking, who am I, in Advaita. And why is she so veiled? We've already looked at the problems of veiling power and distorting power. We should have a better idea now that there is an inherent pratibha, or flint-like intelligence, and there's an obscuring power and a distorting power and a revelatory power involved in that. Probably not good to ask questions that start with why, because you ask why, then you're pretty much talking about cause and effect. And if you ask what, you're talking about objects. And if you ask where, space, and when, time, those are all in Maya. Time, space, causality, name and form, or how Swami Vivekananda defined Maya. Namarupa Desha Kala Nimitta. So if that's the definition of Maya, then we already know that she veils and distorts by her very presence. And then we have to know that the revelatory power will unveil the truth about these things, and that we should follow that tract as best as we can. So a short preamble to these charts about who she is. If we look here, for instance, we know the traditional way of the Trinity, and as it's usually given out, because if we mentioned the Trinity, we would automatically sing something like Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Eva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. The Guru Stotram. If you want to play tabla to that, it would be in 5 or 10. And it would be a very wonderful thing to offer to people. They like to sing that along. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. That's Shiva, of course. So, in this rendering, we see that Sutta, I think it is, let me get my copy up here, is talking about the Divine Mother in various ways. He says, and this is from the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, one of the points I like to make is that Divine Mother is worshipped in India and nowhere else, really. She has her own scriptures in India, and she has her own following in India, her own sampradaya, her own darshana, and she also connects with all the darshanas more easily than any other of the darshanas connect with each other. And there might be a little mother worship here in Christianity and in Egypt and places. Nothing was something where the Divine Mother herself speaks in terms of scripture, like the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, which says, they say that Brahma is the creator, but he is born from the navel lotus of Vishnu. Again, Vishnu cannot be the creator, for he sleeps on the bed of the many-headed snake, Ananta, at the time of cosmic dissolution, called Pralaya. Yet Ananta cannot be the primal hub of creation either, for he rests on the liquid ocean of existence called Ekarnava. Therefore, and finally, a liquid must have a vessel. Therefore, I take refuge in the primal Mahashakti, the mother of all beings, who is the innate force in all, and is thus the support of all. So he reasons it out this way in the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam. You can see this image is perfect for such a chart called Mahashakti, the supporting force. And there you see the Vishnu sleeping on the bed of snakes, which is in the background, hovering over him, on the waters of existence, Ikarnava. And Shesha really means unmanifested cosmic energy, that thousand-headed snake, the leftover residue of things at the end of long, long cycles, that from which will support the powers of creation, preservation, and destruction. And in Vedanta we like to call those projection, sustenance, and withdrawal, because we know the teachings are that there's no creation and destruction for anything. Everything is eternal. Brahman's eternal, your Atman's eternal, nature is eternal, Maya also eternal. However, Shankara does say Maya can have an end in Jivan Mukta, in wisdom, in enlightenment. You can be free of it. But the eternal nature, of course, it'll come back on people in cycles, in its veiling and its distorting applications. So we see there what a fitting image this is when you see Lord Brahma there on his lotus of conception, and Brahma sitting on that many-petaled lotus, sometimes described as a silver-petaled lotus with 1,000 petals. And the petals are said to be in the different worlds, you see. And when he comes out of the navel lotus of Vishnu, it's at her behest. She gives him the bijams to start this next cycle in creation. So you could say, well, symbolic, metaphoric, but you can also say very practical, very reasonable, and very profound. If you don't particularly like it put in terms of form, you can put it in terms of philosophy. That everything comes from the Word is basically what's being said here. And the Word exists in subtle form in the Divine Mothers, because she's the goddess of the Word. And so she'll whisper that word into Lord Brahma's ear, and she'll mingle it with a little Maya. If she doesn't mingle it with Maya, then the creation cannot go forward. That's the teaching. And I heard Holy Mother tell that story. I also heard Kala Rinpoche tell that story, Tibetan master. Well, of course, Kala Rinpoche, while he was in the body, Holy Mother, I heard from her teachings, because she passed away in 1920s into Mahasamadhi. So the idea here is that lotus, of 1,000 petals, and Brahma sits on, he'll animate all the potential worlds, and he'll look into each one of those realms as he looks at each petal of the lotus. So he's overseeing all of that as the, we like to say, projector, the projecting power. If we say creative power, it doesn't really jibe well with the philosophy of India, because you can't have a creation without a creator, you see, and nothing doesn't exist. It means something is always there to pull something out of. So you'd have to have a formless thing or entity or principle in order which to pull out form from. Form just can't appear by itself. It's just like it needs seeds to produce trees. And so the seeds back in the cosmic mind of Lord Brahma are legion and legend, and the power that invokes them is mothers. And meanwhile, Brahma is this Lord of creation or projection, and Mahavishnu would be the Lord of preservation or sustenance. Preservation is not such a bad word in that case. You can see them coming out of the lotus navel, Lord Brahma and Lord Vishnu there, holding the various accoutrements that he's known for, and he's waking up from this pralaya, sleep of hundreds and thousands of years, yugas they call it, or bardos, if you want to use, very elongated periods of time, which all dissolve into the timeless eternal moment. And so the time too will be an appearance which is not actually real, just like space will be an appearance that's not actually real, because it's constantly going in cycles. What else is there to talk about? It's really an easy study, but a very beautiful image to grace our minds with, and to give us an ability to meditate upon her. Again, Sri Sutta says at the end of this conclusion, this four-part conclusion, he says, "Therefore I fly for refuge to the Devi, who is praised by Lord Brahma while resting on the navel lotus of Vishnu, who himself is plunged into yogic sleep due to her power of yoga nidra." There is again where you get that same music out of the Mother Scriptures. Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Nidra Rupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha. Nidra is sleep, or also Nidra is a kind of samadhi. They're saying all of us go into samadhi tonight, into a kind of samadhi which we don't remember, which is free of forms. It's called deep sleep. That's again like asking, who am I? You should ask that question not only here, because we're getting pretty tired, I can tell you, of people just saying, who am I, who am I, who am I, like owls, and not getting anywhere with it. You have to connect it. Who am I, who am I, who am I? You have to connect it with teachings of deep sleep, dreaming and waking. Who am I in dream? Oh, gee, I could be all sorts of things. See, who am I in deep sleep? I'm nobody. So, I mean, that's where you're starting to actually get somewhere with a statement like, who am I? You can't just jump to who am I unless you're a past master. You're going to have to move by stages, avastas, the way the seers are teaching you, and so your understanding will mature by degrees, and one day you will have Prakasha Shakti show you something profound. Or your own pratibha will strike sparks. Like Sharmakrishna said, it's like striking a match in a dark cave or in a dark room. Immediately that light flares up and reveals everything. So these great souls will have this experience because they set themselves up for it. Most people aren't doing that, and there are many reasons for that. Some of them are fear, as we talked about in the first half. Fear of formlessness. It's a part of the Curtain of Nations teaching that you have fear of some primal things. You also have desire for primal things like rebirth. But ironically enough, if you want to be reborn, you have to die. And you have fear of death, but you still want to be reborn. So you have this desire, but this fear attending it. And so this is part of the reason why people aren't born with clarity, khyati. They've created the form out of fear. And now they're fine. You see, oh, I can forget about the 9 days and 9 nights in my mother's womb, which was so painful. Did I say days and nights? I meant months. 8 months in my mother's womb. So I can forget about the pain that birth, and I can forget about death pain because that's still 50, 60, 70 years away. But then the same thing is going to repeat itself again with rebirth. I'm going to have to undertake those same fears and create a new body, like the 12 Nidanas in Buddhism explained so well. So when Sri Sutta talks about plunged in yogic sleep due to her power of yoga nidra, then she can put all of these souls into sleep. It's called pralaya. And there's a pralaya after each one of the yugas. Satya, Treta, Dvapara, Kali, right? Actually, they're named for the four throws of a dice in a dice game. So the whole thing is kind of a game, as they're saying. So she'll have a pralaya where everything will go into abeyance, back to its seed form, back to a kind of deep sleep state, including the Trinity, and held for potential in the next cycle. And this is happening in an eternal moment. This is what we don't understand. It's not happening in a 4,320,000,000 year long linear phase of time, which we were only there for 5 or 6 million years of, standing upright, if that. It's actually an evolution, not an evolution with a big bang ending with nothing, but it's an involution back to your source and an evolution back to nature, all guided hopefully by her hand. The 24 cosmic principles of Lord Kapula's Samkhya system are tattvas, that means stations. You actually you man a station as you die. The Tibetan Buddhists call that bardo. You give it up as you get reborn. So you go through all of these tattvas just like you would visit 24 floors of an apartment building one day. So, and you do this every night too, is the thing. And you probably do it with every breath. You create, you preserve, you destroy. In breath, everything is telling you that this is the truth. Why aren't you seeing it? Avarana and Vikshepa, could it be? Could it be veiled and distorted in the society and in the human mind? And in the minds of the ancestors, which are participating in this with so much attachment to the prana. They love life force. They're addicted to life force. So right out of the navel comes the baby, the food gets digested, water gets utilized. It's all third chakra to lower chakra living. Again, we'll look at that in Kundalini teachings next week and the week after. This was a quick study, but see how it opens up many profound teachings and entertains the mind in many ways to think in deeper levels, and also to come to know her a little bit. Strive to know her. You'll never succeed, but your mind will get purified, and when she gives you a pure mind, then she might also give you her vision, as Sri Ramakrishna had of Mother Kali. She who, since birth, has ever led me on, from paths of trouble to perfection's goal, mother-wise in her own sweet and playful ways. She who has always illumined my understanding. She, the mother, she my refuge, is my all. Whether my work overflow with full fruition or with none, may she, the primal guide, my refuge be. Now a monk said that to her, about her. A great monk, the great Swami Vivekananda, wrote that, penned that out. So you can see how deeply they feel about the primal guide, and how much she reveals levels of dharmic teachings inside of us, all belonging to ourself, our own intelligence, pratibha, prakasha. This is yours. Sometimes if I teach at a school, the first thing I'll say was, what are you all doing here again in class? You learned this last lifetime, and the lifetime before that. Why are you always coming back to class? Wake up. All knowledge lies within you. So Vivekananda said, education is the manifestation of knowledge that is already within you. And devotion is the manifestation of religion already within you. So all of these things are founded in the original perfection, the Atman, we'd say in Vedanta, or Buddha nature if you wish. And there she is standing, trying to reveal that to us. Let's shift over here. We've done whole retreats on this chart. I haven't brought it out for a little while, but of course, don't get me started, as they say, because spiritual transmission in the goddess is one of my very favorite of the 325 charts that I've put together for visuals for people. This one actually is, I think, number 275 right there of the colorized ones. So there's still about 100 of them left to colorize, but they all started out as black and whites, thanks to the generosity of one of the students. We were able to make these into color for you. So this has to be one of our top 10 favorites. I've asked people about it because it really fleshes her out, as you might say, reveals her a little bit more as she is. But I'm using it in this class series called Mahamaya and Maya to show, and there'll be a couple other charts which will show that even, I think, clearer, to show Maya here and Mahamaya. Mahamaya consists of anything that begins with practice and as its cause and ends with realization or insight. Insight and realization come due to practice of Dharma that you hear from a teacher. Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, they call it in Vedanta. You hear it first, then you roll it over in your mind, and then you realize it. Like Sri Ramakrishna used to see the tablas, he'd use that, you see. He'd say, play that tabla, so the tabla player would play the na stroke, many times. No, 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 no. And then Sri Ramakrishna would turn to the students and say, everyone say na. They say na, na, na. He says, okay, now play it on the tabla. And nobody could do it. See? Only the expert could make that sound. So that's a teaching he was given about how difficult it is to realize this truth. And you need to practice. And then you'll be able to make the na stroke of the Dharma, which will lead you to understanding of the mother of all Dharma. And it's no different in outer practice than in inner practice. You just have to put forth the effort and persevere. Holy Mother said perseverance was the one thing that's usually missing. And here in the West, I find that the Dharma itself is missing. So you can't persevere if you don't have it. I'm going to persevere with the Dharma. What was that again? What's Dharma? In a sense, until your teacher tells you about the Mother, you don't know about her. There are beautiful songs in India about that. My guru told me about Divine Mother, and now I talk about her. See, as the song goes on. Now I can't stop talking about her. I didn't know anything about her before he revealed her to me. And it's not like something he ever saw. You can't see Mother. No man has seen God with these eyes. So it's going to be that's John said that, you see. But it's going to be very difficult for you to see the Mother too. There's another song that's haunting my mind right now. If I can pull it out, the line is that the yogis meditate in dark mountain caves so that they can have her vision. See? But she's very loath to give that vision. So they meditate in dark mountain caves for a very long time. Why? Because the senses are deprived of light, sound, and everything. And when she does appear, there's no mistaking her, because the senses have been rendered non-functioning, you see. So anything that happens there is going to be of her doing. So they'll wait. Let's see, the sparkling essence that appears, in their consciousness is in the scriptures it's Lord Brahma, right? Lord Brahma is actually four-faced. You can see three of them there on that image. The other one's pointing the other direction. So that means the four Vedas. So whenever Mother's about to appear on the battlefield of relativity, Lord Brahma will appear first, and the four faces will chant the four Vedas. So these are always the introductory to her appearance. You see these, it's like having a fanfare with brass. Da-da-da. Something's going to happen, you see. So inwardly, they look for her vision like that, and all of a sudden there's this deep fanfare of choruses of Rig Veda and Samaveda and Artaveda and so forth. And they know, oh, Mother's about to appear. I must pay special attention, you see. Like Karmapa used to put on the black hat back in the 80s when he first came here, you see. We're waiting for that to hit his head, you see. Make sure you retain full consciousness. Don't waver at all. This is an important ceremony, you see. So your consciousness has to be there 100%. 99% she doesn't accept. So as an introductory to this chart, like I was saying, we're using it as, we're not going through the whole thing, don't worry. That will take us hours or days. We've done whole retreats on this before. Probably have to do another one on it soon. But you can see here, if we're looking at intelligence versus matter, that way at the bottom there, you see matter represented by a lot of these articles in the puja. Like you see there's annam. Annam is food, right? So that's matter, basically. Of course, this is with her, it's going to be prasad. It's going to be very nutritious food. Because we might want to look at that at some point, nutritious food, and how important that is to the chakras. That's why I said we might get into some Kundalini Yoga teachings about what's the difference between a person who eats food and just stays in Maya and a person who eats food and gets spiritual life. Why is food so important? So we can look at that. So Anam here at the bottom right-hand side of the, and then you see Vidya, which is wisdom represented by light, waving of the fivefold flame in front of the images in puja. You can see the Pancha Indriyas and Bhutas, which I mentioned in the first half, 5 senses and the 5 elements. Where did earth come from? Sense of smell. Where did water come from? Sense of taste. Where did fire come from? Sense of sight. Where did air come from? Sense of touch. Where did ether come from? Sense of hearing. These are yogic connections. This is Yoga 101. People practicing asana, hatha yoga don't know this. It's Yoga 101 to connect the outer elements to the outer senses. When they're connected, then you can look at the inner senses and the inner elements. Those are called tanmatras, your basic Samkhya Yoga. So if you don't make the connections, or if the connections have been broken over many generations, or from time out of mind even over in cultures, then you're foreign to your own projection. All of this has come out of your mind. You don't know that, I said, number one. Number two, you don't know how to reconnect yourself to nature. So if you're going to be Prakriti Das, these are things you're going to have to know. If you want to serve the higher Prakriti, you have to connect to the lower Prakriti. It's not a matter of renouncing it alone. Some beings might do that. In Tantra and in Yoga, it's a matter of connecting with it. And that's going to be the route most beings will take, or should take. Because if you renounce it completely, there's a danger of you never seeing that it came out of your own mind. That's a missing piece of the puzzle that stumps a lot of people in the Neti path. You have to know that God is not a creator, and you prove that self to you by seeing that the mind does the creating. You see, the mind does the creating. The mind of the Trinity in this case, all the way down to the minds of the gods and goddesses, all the way down to the ancestors, all the way down to you as individuals. The ego mind, chitta, connection, the antakarana, the outer cause of everything. The inner cause of everything. And its outer manifestation. So I'm just saying again, Pancha Indriyas and Pancha Bhutas, that's Maya. See, might as well be until you connect intelligence to it. So the connecting power and the revelatory power, the pratibha and the prakasha, is going to allow you to say, well, of course, there's earth. I can smell it. But is it going to cause you to say that out of the subtle sense of smell came earth? That God didn't have anything to do with it? That your mind, manning the senses, caused those things to appear for you, and for you put 6 or 7 billion people together right now, and the earth seems very real to you? That's a lot of thinking power. And it's very hard to go against the grain of that thinking power when it gets settled around Maya, or matter. That's the only reality. Brahman is the only reality. In Vedanta, that's what scares people away. Brahman Satya Jagad Mithya. What do you mean, sir? I mean, Brahman is the only reality? The world is unreal. Oh. And they go away. Well, wait a minute. Didn't you hear me? Yes, the world's unreal. No, first I said Brahman is real. Brahman is bliss. Brahman is peace. Brahman is wisdom. Brahman is mother. See, why didn't you hear that? Why did you just say the world was unreal and it depressed you? Because you wanted the world. But Jesus told you can't have the world. Birds have nests, foxes have holes, but you don't have any place here. Grant unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Take unto yourself what is the Lord's. There's so many ways in which Jesus was a sannyasin and a renunciate. All of this is going to keep you from realizing the simple truth that everything is mind made manifest. That's how she put it, Holy Mother. All objects are thought concretized. Those are two statements she made when she was alive. Everything is mind made manifest. All objects are thought concretized. So first thing which suggests to you is that God's not a creator. That God is transcendent of creation, preservation, and destruction. And probably the best way you're going to get to God is through her, the Divine Mother. So each one of these things is why I say we took retreats on this and just worked our way up from Maya to higher Maya to lower Mahamaya to higher Mahamaya, if you want to say, and took apart all these things, and I had fun assigning all of these things to this beautiful image. I really did, but I had to leave a lot of things out. It was sad. I wanted to reveal it all. She wouldn't let me. Well, space is a problem. 8 by 11, what can you do with an 8 by 11? So, but we can look at this. You might say, see, here's this platform she sits on. It was perfect, actually. Nama, Rupa, Desha, Kala, Nimitta. I mentioned that in the first half. Nama, name, Rupa, form, Desha, time, space, Kala, time, Nimitta, cause and effect. So from that platform down, you can easily say all of this is Maya. All of this is changing constantly. All of this is transitory. All of this is ephemeral. All of this is unreal. All of this is the chaff, not the wheat. All of this is mammon, not God. The real me is none but God, none but He, and never, never matter changing. So I am not this. And that's about the strongest neti-neti Shankara style that you could apply to such reasoning. Come to find later that even Shankara came back and said all of this is Brahman. So he must have been guiding you to let go of things that had the veiling and distorting power assigned to them because they were in your mind. Like Swami said, you are never in Maya. Maya is in you, so get rid of it. So if you were looking at everything under those veiling power and distorting power without your pratibha, flint-like intelligence, then you did have to call it Maya. You did have to withdraw from it. You had to detach. You had to call it unreal. Let's see what happens later when I get rid of my desire and my attachment for these things. And that's going to go pretty deep because I'm going to also have to get rid of my desire for rebirth and my attachment to my ancestors, who are drawing me back into this round of birth and death, like vipers in a hole. Sri Ramakrishna said, the world's a great pit, all your relatives are vipers inside of it. I don't see why that's any different than Jesus saying, birds have nests, foxes have holes, you have no place to lay your head here. Or, my father's dying, my father's dead, I want to bury him. Let the dead bury the dead. You come with me and proclaim eternal life. This is your moment. Jesus is standing in front of you. And you're going to wrap yourself up in funeral rites? Then it's going to be marriage of your children? You'll never follow me. So this is a stark slap in the face to people who want to follow. This is the difference between intelligence and matter. People who think they are matter, they will become matter. My teacher used to always use that quip, or not always, but occasionally he would surprise us with it, you see. No mind, no matter. No matter? Never mind. See how many ways you can dice that up and understand it? If there is no mind, there will be no matter, because everything has come from the mind. Mind connected inward to the intelligence, connected inward to the mother, the word, let's say, the word connected to her and her connected to Brahman, but outward, mind connected to subtle senses, mind connected to subtle elements, tanmatras, mind connected to gross elements and gross senses all the way down here. See, now there we have the mind running along the tract of the world is real. And my desires are real, my children are real, my family's real, my wealth is real, and so forth and so on. So let the dead bury the dead. See, they've been involved in that for lifetimes, they'll continue to be involved in lifetimes. You cannot help them unless you get free. So get yourself free, and like Buddha did, then go back to the palace later and give the teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths, to everyone. So that's your directive right now. And what's she given you to do it with? Practice, sadhana. The one thing that's missing, people practicing. Are you getting up every morning and sitting in meditation? Are you picking up a scripture once a day and reading the words of the seers? Are you doing devotions to increase your love of God? You can say, oh, God is love and love is God and so forth, but are you actually demonstrating that in your life? Do you love God more than you love the world? I think we only knew one person that we absolutely have no doubt who loved God more than the world. Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. 100% involved in love of God, following every religious path to find God. And he was a quick study, but who did he use? See, to find God. Divine Mother of the Universe, who is one with Brahman, like fire, like heat is one with fire. Well, there you see it. Manifested Prakriti is pretty much a cover term, or Panchakarana. Panchakarana is the fivefold cause. And you see that's why we put Namarupa Desha Kala Nimitta. Fivefold cause of everything in Maya. What else is there? The lokas are there, so space. You see, lokas means world. See all the flowers? So I assigned all to those flowers strewn around at her feet in the realm of Maya to the lokas. Look how many there are. But we become hypnotized by looking up. We look for other life up. We look for 5 elements up when there's only 3. And here we are with 5 here. Are we realizing what these 5 mean before we go looking somewhere else for them? We should realize them and connect them. Be fully aware of the world we're in with these yogic connections. And gird our loins, you see. Grant unto our own selves this knowledge which is our own already. And therefore the Panchakarana means the fivefold cause of everything. Come to find out that in the 3 worlds, everything comes into them through 5s. I just wrote a book recently called Quintuplication Process. Because if you add cosmic mind to Kapila system, there are 5 sets of 5s. So cosmic mind, and then the Antakarana, which is Manas, Buddha, Chitta, and Ahamkara. Then from there you add the 5 subtle elements, 5 subtle senses, 5 gross elements, 5 gross senses and gross elements. Add them all up, it's 30 really. I'm sorry, 25. And so everything comes down the stations in sets of 5. If your knowledge of stations is missing, and you just like water, then you'll come down as a fish. If you just like the sense of smell and the sense of hearing, you'll come down as a dog. My teacher used to entertain us with quips like that. So if you're aware of all 5 senses, but you're not aware of her, you come down as an egotistic human being, enacting the play of ignorance and suffering, and causing suffering to others. One of the ancestors, of course there are higher ancestors, but you should come down with the buddhi, shouldn't you? With this honed intellect. Come into life with that, because that's pretty much at the beginning of most everything, is the intellect, buddhi. If the buddhi is well informed, if the ego hasn't gotten a hold of it and distorted it, then the buddhi is like this ray of sunlight full of particles of wisdom. That's how I've described it in my book, Wisdom Particles. See, the Om shines with wisdom particles. The word shines with wisdom particles. So it's the same setup as here. Everything shines with particles, doesn't it? Everything's held together. It has its life with atomic particles and subatomic particles. So as you move closer in, the particles get finer and finer and finer and finer, till they're particles of prana, then they're particles of mind and thought, then they're particles of intelligence. When you get to the particles of intelligence, you're in deep sleep with this flashlight. See, some people have a spotlight. Some people have a lighthouse. It's like Ramakrishna is saying, some people have never heard of milk, other people have heard of it but not tasted it, and some have tasted it. But I like to add to that, yes, great master, but you own a dairy. And you hand it out. Like there's a beautiful song about that. And Sri Krishna Govinda, and that's not the one. That's a beautiful one. But Govindam Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govindam. So Krishna is like the milker of the cow of the Upanishad, and he milks the Upanishads and gives the milk of eternal life to all the cowherd boys and girls. It's one of the verses in this beautiful song. And therefore you have these great souls, you see, that know how to enact divinity at all levels of living. They make this world peaceful and beautiful when they're in it. We should listen to them and follow their example. There's a big yoni there. I've just put yagya on there. It's all about sacrifice here. Krishna says in the Gita, mentioning him, this world is not for the non-sacrificer. So how will any other world be for the non-sacrificer? He won't get any of the worlds. He's like a thief. He's stealing things here for his own selfishness. So this world is not for the non-sacrificer. So if you want her to reveal this truth of your higher being, then you must sit up and pay attention to her. Because everyone knows, one song in India says, everyone knows that the child who doesn't study and understand the subject will get whipped and put to bed soundly without his dinner. That's what happens to the student who isn't paying attention. So in that case then we pay strict attention to the fact that through sacrifices here, from the Vedas come the rain, and from the rain come everyone's happy and fulfilled because they know there'll be food, and the whole thing is this beautiful cycle that's actually seen in other religions too, including the indigenous religions of the American Indians, this wheel they talk about. But our point about that is this wheel's all happening in the realm of sacrifice. Many of the religions didn't get beyond that. They also went to their ancestors. They were thinking of their fathers, the great chiefs, the great emperors, the great ancestors, the kings, the queens. That is a loop, India says, it's all happening inside of Maya. And when you find love of the Lord, you transcend that. You're not born in it anymore. You open the heart chakra and you're free from thenceforth. So manifested Prakriti, Panchakarna, the fivefold cause of everything, and the five senses and the five bhutas all listed there under this moniker of unmanifested Prakriti. And on the other side you see Akasha, so if time was there, and then space must also be there. Akasha means space, and Shabda means sound on the bell. So, and the lokas I've already talked about. There are two other things I put in the realm below her raised dais, because you get above the dais, you start seeing all of these beautiful things. The Trinity is there. You see operating partly in Mahamaya and down into the realms of the lokas. But you see there's also Shatsampat on this base of this pillar, and Purusharta on the base of the other. Purushartas are the four fruits of life, which are Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So this is a mother system, pure and simple. Dharma means what you're getting right now. And Artha means right livelihood, if you want to put it in Buddhistic terms. Kama means satisfaction of all your legitimate desires. And moksha means it all ends in liberation. So as long as you put Dharma first, then wealth and desires are freeing. You'll satisfy. And then you will not be impeded by the Vishnu Granthi when you try and get back to your source. When you take the 24 cosmic principles and involute back to find your way home, basically. Without the 24 cosmic principles, how are you going to find your way home? Unless you have a personal guide that's going to take you by the neck and drag you there. Who has that? So I said Purusharthas. On the other side, Shatsampat. Shatsampat are the 6 jewels of the 4 treasures. So we talked in the first half about Viveka Vairagya and the Adhyaropa Apavada practice that you do with them. Discriminate, detach, by removing false superimposition. By first seeing that there is such a thing as false superimposition, then removing it with practice. But then after you do that, you get 6 jewels. Samo, Dhammo, Vipuiti, Titiksha, Samadhana, and Shraddha. Inner peace, self-control, contentment, transcendent of dualities like heat and cold, a special kind of concentration that allows you to see Brahman in meditation, and faith. You see the faith of a Vedantist. If a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew would ask them, what's your faith? We'd say, well, basically my faith is based in a special kind of meditation which allows me to see Brahman. And that is based in my forbearance of dualities here in relativity, and that is based in contentment, and that is based in self-control of my senses, and that is based in peace of mind, peace, sama, and all of that is based in my detachment from what's unreal, and those are all based in my discrimination between what is real and what's unreal. So you take the 6 jewels and the 4 treasures and you go backwards, and that describes a Vedanta's faith. How many people can say that? You walk up to me, tell me what your faith is. Phew, I don't know. I know I have it, or I don't, or I'm faking it, or I can't explain it. But with Mother Wisdom, there's an explanation for everything. You darn betcha there is. She'll reveal it to her because she's the Prakasha Shakti. So Shatsampat, is there anything beyond the 2 jewels and that Shatsampat, those 3 treasures? There's a 4th treasure called Mumukshutvam, someone said. Mumukshutvam means the desire to be free. So this is how exacting the Vedantic path is before it's going to grant anyone the moniker of enlightenment or illumination. It's going to say, do you have a sincere desire to be free? So many people don't. They'll say, oh Lord, please free me, please save me, I'm tired of the world, I'm depressed, my wealth isn't making me happy anymore, I've got everything but I'm not satisfied. How many ways out there are they going to say they're not happy with embodied existence, you see, and the samsaric wheel? So they say, free me, but then you show them freedom. Oh, actually, I don't really want that. I think I'll go back here a little ways and default back to my pleasure zones, my comforts. Who wants to really be free? So mumukshutvam is not mukti yet. Mukti is a freedom that is a state always at hand. Who said that? Shankara. Mukti or moksha, however you want to say it, which is the root of that word, mumukshutvam, is a state always at hand. It's not something you can get through practice. It's not something you can get through evolution. It's not something you can get through purification. It's not something that happens via evolution. It's already at hand. You are free. That's your true nature. Now, how am I going to realize that? I better get Prakasha Shakti involved and realize my inherent intelligence called Pratibha. That flint-like intelligence inside of me. Bring that into the game. So those, we've gone through everything that's in the realm of Maya there. I mean, what could be listed? There's the 6 passions, the 8 fetters, the 9 anshagayas, and all these negative things. That probably falls even below. If I could just have a pull out of this chart, you see down here, all these dark things, you see, that are definitely Mayic. But this pretty much things that are, you might say, a mixture of true and untrue, a mixture of real and unreal. Shankara used that. In other words, they could be unreal to you because you don't know about them. Then you find out about them, you find out that they are unreal. And then you find out deeper and you find out that they're a part of the reality. And so you include them. We know how Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the bell fruit. Some people take the skin off of the bell fruit, put the stem out, core it, take the seeds out, and sell just the fruit. Just the flesh, rather. That's the fruit seller in the market, he says. He says, so he weighs the flesh to find out how much he can charge the customer. See? But he said, but I'm not like that. If I want to know the full weight of the fruit. So I'll weigh the stem, the skin, the core, the seeds, and the flesh. Then I'll have the full weight of the fruit. So Sri Ramakrishna was a comprehensive knower. Samanvaya Mahacharya, Yuga Dharma Swarupinam, Sarvadeva Swarupam, Sri Ramakrishna Namamyaham. He was a consummate knower of reality, and he included everything in it. He says, I can't just weigh the flesh. Been there, done that. It's really what he's saying. I know the essence. Now I go back to the world and I see it's filled with essence. How can I call the chair unreal? I mean, people complained about lust. He said, don't give it up, increase it. What? Increase it and turn it towards God. Lust after God. So everything became a teaching for him to pay it all back into the middle. Samanvaya Mahacharya. He was the great Acharya, the greatest teacher, who brought everything together, Samanvaya. And so you couldn't be around him without having this tendency. And it was just one of the beautiful facets granted to him by Divine Mother. And they sing in India about that. Suravara Varshini, Durdara Darshini, Durmukha Marshini, Masharate, Tribhuvana Poshini, Shankara Poshini, Kilbisha Moshini, Kusharate, Bhagavati Roshini, Diti Shuta Roshini, Durmada Roshini, Sindhu Sute, Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura Mardini, Ramjaka Pardini Shaila Sute, Jaya Jaya He Mahishasura Mardini, Ramjaka Pardini Shaila Sute. Basically, the great Durga Mahishasura Mardini Stotram, she who is the destroyer of all the negativities. He says, O Mother Durga, you nourish all beings, you neutralize negative forces, and shower abundance even upon the gods. You delight Shankara, that's Shiva, but are a terrible sight to the demonic forces who oppose thee. Rejoicing in ferocious battle, you dance across the universe, humbling pride and vanquishing evil. Your presence transforms the poison of countless transgressions, for you were born of the healing waters of eternal life. Victory unto thee, O destroyer of demons, beloved of Shiva, and daughter of the eternal snow mountains, victory unto thee. So there are some 16 verses to that. It's We used to sing at Hindu temples when we visited them in the mainland. We call the mainland here in Hawaii. So when you sing, well, I should put it this way, you want to sing these things, these stotrams and these beautiful bhajans and everything to Divine Mother when you come to know of her. And this is one way of increasing your devotion to her. It's another connection you want to put together, is that to love more you have to know more. So you can't just leave your love as a matter of external effusion or emotionalism. Devotion to her will come when you appease her with knowing her. So a deeper level of knowing will come when a deeper level of love will come when you practice this knowledge, and that will destroy your doubts, and then you'll know who to love and how to love and so forth. This really operates on all levels of our life, but particularly in the realm of Divine Mother, Mahamaya. And next week we'll look at Mahamaya as versus her intelligence versus matter again, in 2 or 3 other ways. One of the ways I want to get to it is by showing these hierarchy of existence in Shaivism, and show you how, along with, I think I have it here, along with the 36 cosmic principles in Shaivism, there are the beings who operate them. So we're going to show how the insentient matter becomes finer and finer all the way up to unmanifested Prakriti, but we'll also show how beings are divided into their way of operating it. Like some of them might be very deluded still. Some of them may not even have the mantra. Some of them get the mantra and get closer to her, to Shiva. Some of them keep a sense of individuality as they get closer to Shiva, so they're still affected with malas or limitations. It's only when you get to a certain level of Mahamaya that you find beings that are entirely given to Lord Shiva. And so this is a good way in Shaivism that we find out about these same principles we're talking about in Vedanta and Yoga. So here, let's end with a chant as we usually do traditionally, and then meet again next week on Sunday at the same time. Om Sato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Joitir Gamaya Mrichor Ma Amritam Gamaya Abira Mayedi Rudrayate Dakshinamukam Te Namam Pahinicham Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, and from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om.